Late one evening, a dedicated black maintenance technician risked everything to free a white female CO, who found herself trapped within a stalled elevator. Despite burned hands and near electrocution, he persisted until the doors finally yielded, then quietly departed for his second job. Days later, a wave of malicious rumors swept through the office. Some whispered he had intentionally tampered with the system for personal gain. Then unexpectedly the CO entered a meeting room and delivered a statement that silenced everyone. Before we delve into this captivating tale, tell us where you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Michael Bennett, a 35-year-old black maintenance technician, possessed an unparalleled familiarity with the intricate workings of the Prism Tech building. That night he was engrossed in his usual routine. His well-worn uniform and calloused hands bore witness to years of navigating life's relentless demands. His existence was often shaped by societal preconceptions, the scrutinizing gazes of those around him. Though he lacked prestigious academic credentials, his invaluable practical experience, honed from repairing aged machinery in underserved communities, had endowed him with a resourcefulness and adaptability no formal education could provide. Michael meticulously examined every component of the electrical system, every aspect of the elevator, ensuring flawless operation down to the last button and wire. It was repetitive work, yet Michael understood its gravity. The safety of the entire structure rested on his precision, and he consistently remained the last to leave. The comforting aroma of machine oil and the steady hum of equipment offered solace from his daily concerns. Concurrently, in her opulent top-floor office, Victoria Stone/Hayes, the 38-year-old CEO of Prism Tech, was immersed in reports. Michael recognized her as the embodiment of success in the tech industry, a formidable and decisive female executive. He was also acutely aware of the invisible barrier within the company that separated individuals like him from those like her. Michael was all too accustomed to the indifferent, even disdainful looks from those who valued only degrees and status, dismissing manual laborers such as himself. Michael was concluding his tasks in the main lobby when a muffled impact resonated from the CEO's private elevator area. He flinched when an unusual sound, followed by an unsettling silence. Next, a faint alarm bell flickered, then extinguished completely. Inside the sealed metal enclosure, Victoria Stone/Hayes had just endured a terrifying ordeal as the elevator jolted violently, then abruptly halted between floors. Darkness consumed her, a dense, suffocating blackness that mirrored her childhood nightmares. Her breath caught, her chest tightened, a wave of numbness washing over her. Her innate fear surged with unprecedented intensity. Victoria had battled claustrophobia since childhood, and being confined in this cramped elevator was nothing less than a relived nightmare. In the dark, memories of helplessness and solitude from her youth overwhelmed her, tormenting her mind. Victoria, the powerful woman who commanded an entire tech conglomerate, was now a small, vulnerable being, utterly powerless. The cold metal walls seemed to close in. The air grew thin, stifling. Cold sweat beaded on her forehead. Her heart hammered as if to escape her chest. Is anyone there? Her initial plea for help emerged weakly, almost inaudible. Then panic spread, eclipsing her reason. Victoria began to shriek, her voice raw with terror. She pounded frantically on the door, clawing at the smooth surfaces. A profound sense of helplessness and isolation enveloped her. In a state of extreme panic, Victoria began to frantically press every button, one after another, with the desperate hope that a door would open. Her hands trembled as she repeatedly pulled down the emergency lever. Unbeknownst to her, this unconscious action risked exacerbating the already faulty electrical system. The internal communication system flickered, then fell completely silent, severing all contact with the outside world. I'm here, Miss Victoria. Michael Bennett. Please calm down. I'll get you out. A deep, reassuring voice emanated from the door crack, a beacon of hope in the desperate darkness. Michael Bennett, the maintenance technician? Why him? For a fleeting moment, Victoria felt a flicker of annoyance, a hint of subconscious condescension, before overwhelming fear swept away all other thoughts. But in her state of extreme panic, Victoria was almost oblivious to the reassurance. Victoria, stop. Don't touch anything else. You'll only make things worse. Michael shouted through the door crack, attempting to halt her frantic actions. But fear had utterly consumed Victoria's mind, rendering all words meaningless. She continued pressing buttons, pulling levers, screaming in vain. Michael took a deep breath, striving to remain composed. He knew the situation was escalating. With Victoria losing control, the faint whimpers of fear from within the elevator, coupled with loud thuds, conveyed her despair. Michael had to act with greater speed and precision than ever before. He rummaged through his compact toolkit, retrieving a pair of pliers and a screwdriver. Michael approached the auxiliary control panel, concealed beneath the metal casing, a spot known only to those truly intimate with the aging system. He continuously spoke to Victoria through the door crack, though he no longer heard her reply, only the panicked sounds echoing against the elevator walls. "Miss Victoria, I'm here. Everything will be fine. I'm checking the system." He described each step in detail, even playing soft music on his phone to calm her, hoping the familiar sound would penetrate the fear engulfing Victoria. A small spark flashed as he forcefully pried. Michael's arm was seared by contact with an exposed wire. He gritted his teeth slightly. A sharp pain shot through him, but he did not falter. The physical discomfort was insignificant compared to the responsibility he carried and the haunting thought of Emma's future if he failed. He toiled tirelessly in the dark, fumbling with each wire, each intricate connection, relying solely on pure experience and his memory of the old electrical diagrams he had diligently studied years ago. The sound of pliers clamping metal, wires being reconnected, and the hum of the motor gradually grew clearer, a symphony of perseverance and hope. He felt every gasping breath, every bead of sweat rolling down his forehead, but he did not pause for a single moment. Finally, a loud clang echoed and the elevator door abruptly swung open. Light from the hallway flooded in, momentarily blinding her. Victoria stepped out, her legs weak, almost collapsing, her face still deathly pale from fright, her eyes staring blankly into space. Michael's face was smudged with dirt and sweat, exhausted, yet radiating an unusual fortitude. His shoulders were slightly slumped from the strenuous effort. Just then a small electric shock jolted Michael's hand as he withdrew it from the final control, causing him to recoil and emit a small groan, attempting to conceal the burn. Victoria looked at him, her gaze falling upon the deep, seared red mark on the back of his hand. It was an undeniable testament to silent sacrifice. In that instant, all of Victoria's racial biases seemed to utterly crumble, vanishing like smoke. She looked into Michael's calm eyes, seeing no trace of resentment or demand. His dedication stood in stark contrast to her preconceived notions of individuals in his position. Perhaps she had been wrong, terribly wrong. She looked at Michael. He was no longer the technician she once disdained with baseless, irrational beliefs, no longer people like him, burdened by the deep-seated prejudices she had harbored since childhood. She realized that a person's true worth lay not in their skin color, social standing, or degrees, but in their courage, kindness, and sense of responsibility despite all adversities and personal harm. Victoria spoke, her voice thick with emotion, tinged with remorse, still trembling from the fear she had just experienced. "Thank you. You didn't abandon me, and I'm sorry for causing more trouble. I lost control." In Michael's eyes she saw no judgment, only understanding. This deepened Victoria's regret. Michael simply nodded, a faint smile briefly gracing his lips. He sought no thanks, no recognition. He simply did what was necessary. "No one gets left behind," he stated. His eyes held no resentment, just calm and profound comprehension. He knew Victoria had once viewed him differently, but in this moment that no longer mattered. He was simply relieved she was safe. Victoria watched Michael's retreating back, an indescribable emotion swelling within her. It was not merely gratitude, but shame and a profound realization of her own misguided prejudices. From this point forward, things would have to change. Immediately after leaving Prism Tech, Michael hurried to the restaurant where he worked a night shift. His hands still throbbed with a dull ache from the burn, each movement sending sharp stabs of pain through his palm. He was a few minutes late for his shift, having spent extra time at the company ensuring Victoria's safety. The owner, a gruff, stocky man with a perpetually scowling face and drooping mustache, had been waiting. His small, cold eyes swept over Michael's tired form. "Look at you, Bennett. Late again. And what's this? You look like you just wrestled a bear?" Are you planning on actually doing some work or just standing there? You know, people actually need to eat here. He gestured dismissively toward the mountain of greasy dishes piled in the back. Now get to it. And if you're not fast enough, I'll find someone who is. I'm not running a charity. Every slow second costs me money, and you bet I'll deduct it from your pay. His voice was a harsh, low growl laced with contempt. Michael felt a fresh wave of humiliation wash over him, but he just nodded, biting back a wince as he plunged his burned hand into the scalding water. The pain flared, a searing reminder of the day's events. But he pressed on. He scrubbed, his movements stiff and clumsy, the fatigue in his shoulders making every plate feel heavier. Each clatter of ceramic, each splash of dirty water felt like another blow to his already battered spirit. He just focused on the rhythm, forcing himself to move faster, trying to ignore the constant nagging pain and the owner's sharp glances. He knew he couldn't lose this job. Not now, not ever. Every penny earned was incredibly precious for his daughter's surgery for Emma. Michael gently placed his tools back in his bag, stretching with a long sigh after his exhausting effort. The burn on his hands still throbbed, but he didn't care. The important thing was that Miss Victoria was safe. He greeted her briefly, then turned and walked away, not waiting for praise or attention. He just wanted to go home to his little daughter. That night, Michael trudged through the quiet, dimly lit streets. The cool night air felt heavy against his weary face. His body ached from a day that had stretched beyond its limits, and a deep, bone-weary exhaustion settled into his every muscle. The silence of his small, sparsely furnished apartment, once a comfort, now felt like a stark echo of his solitude. He dropped his keys onto the small table with a quiet clink, then just stood there for a moment, shoulders slumped, breathing deeply, letting the weight of the day settle over him before he could face the next hour, the next minute. But then the faint, steady breathing of a sleeping Emma from her room cut through the quiet. That was what he longed for most. He quietly entered her room, gently stroking her soft hair. Emma, his 6-year-old daughter with a mobility impairment in her legs, was the greatest fire and motivation in his life. Looking at her taking hesitant steps, her radiant smile when playing with building blocks, he yearned for a brighter future for her. Michael wanted Emma to have a better life, not to be constrained by societal prejudices like him. He wanted to be a role model for his daughter, showing that nothing is impossible with enough will and perseverance. That promise was his greatest motivation, the reason he overcame every difficulty. That night, Michael fell asleep with a rare sense of peace, carrying the image of his daughter and his hope. Despite the relentless struggles, a deep well of kindness and resilience remained in his heart. After the elevator incident and saving Victoria, Michael's life at Prism Tech remained surprisingly normal. He still arrived at the company earliest and left latest, still diligently checking every light bulb, every pipe, every elevator system meticulously. Michael still kindly greeted his colleagues, though he still felt indifferent, even somewhat disdainful glances from some. He still received cold calls from management when complex issues arose, still had his request for support denied with the excuse of insufficient expertise. Michael accepted it all. He did his job well, always maintaining a smile and dedication because that was his nature and because that was how he supported his family, protecting Emma's dream. He didn't expect any special reward or recognition, just to be able to work and earn enough for his daughter. Victoria began to subtly observe Michael more. At first it was curiosity. She watched how meticulously he checked every electrical wire, how patiently he fixed small glitches without anyone's help, how respectfully he spoke to his junior colleagues, a demeanor she rarely saw in other managers. She saw him eat his simple lunch alone in the small maintenance room, reading worn-out technical books. Gradually, curiosity turned into silent admiration. Victoria realized he wasn't just an ordinary technician. He was a man of practical intelligence, a dedication that far surpassed what she had ever witnessed in highly educated individuals. Just as the atmosphere at Prism Tech seemed to return to normal, a wave of rumors suddenly erupted. Some employees began whispering that Michael had unauthorizedly repaired the elevator, even spreading news that he himself had caused the initial malfunction to show off. The regular department head meeting that day was unusually tense. During the meeting, Mr. Richard Sterling, the head of finance, a middle-aged white man with a dignified but subtly contemptuous gaze towards those not of his caliber, stood up and directed his words towards Michael, his voice full of sarcasm. I've heard that recently there have been some minor incidents caused by unauthorized individuals tampering with systems. This seriously impacts procedures and poses risks to the entire building. This is a consequence of a lack of knowledge and acting on one's own initiative, damaging the company's reputation. He didn't directly name Michael, but his gaze and demeanor clearly targeted him like a poisoned arrow. Some approving glances from other departments also converged on Michael, making him feel the injustice weighing heavily on him. Listening to Richard's malicious accusations, a fire of anger flared within Victoria. She couldn't believe the brazenness and cruelty of those words. They were not only baseless, but deliberately aimed at undermining the person who had saved her life. Victoria felt indignation rising in her chest, not just because Michael was her benefactor, but because of the clear injustice he was enduring. Michael sat there, his face still calm, but inside a growing discomfort and a simmering resentment began to stir. He knew this was a plot, an attempt to undermine him. He also knew the deep-seated prejudices against people like him still existed within this company. He was about to speak up in his defense, but just then a voice rang out, decisive and authoritative, cutting through his thoughts. Victoria, with a cold and determined expression, suddenly stood up. She looked directly at Richard, her gaze as sharp as a knife, forcing him to lower his eyes, unwilling to meet hers. All of Michael's doubts and worries about an indifferent Victoria vanished. He had changed. She no longer looked at him with the eyes of a distant CO, but with eyes of profound understanding and absolute trust, something he had never dared to dream of. I have personally investigated the elevator incident, and I assure you that Mr. Michael Bennett not only did not tamper with it but was the hero who saved me from a dangerous situation. He worked tirelessly while others refused to help. All baseless rumors and unjust accusations will not be tolerated at Prism Tech. We are looking for true talent, not those who only know how to blame and spread misinformation. Victoria's voice resounded, full of authority, silencing the entire meeting room. Richard's face paled. He couldn't utter a word. Michael looked at Victoria, a deep sense of gratitude and a hint of surprise welling up within him. He had never imagined Victoria would defend him so strongly and publicly. Immediately after that meeting, Victoria turned to Michael, offering a gentle smile. Completely different from her usual cold demeanor, she called him into her private office. Michael entered the room, still stunned by what had just happened. Victoria looked him straight in the eye and with a clear tone she said, "Michael, I want you to take on the position of Assistant Head of Building Services. This role not only comes with a deserving salary, but also serves as formal recognition of your outstanding capabilities and sense of responsibility to the entire company." As she spoke these words, Victoria felt a profound sincerity. This decision was not just a reward for Michael, but also an affirmation for herself of a new worldview. She emphasized that Prism Tech needed truly talented people, those capable of problem-solving with intelligence and perseverance, regardless of their background or degrees. Michael couldn't hide his astonishment. He knew well the prejudices that still existed in this company, and such an unexpected promotion could be a double-edged sword. His expression remained calm, but a hint of weariness flickered in his eyes. He wondered if this was a trap, a form of repayment he didn't want to accept, or just a show for Victoria to prove her benevolence. He knew he couldn't afford to make any mistakes. Victoria recognized the suspicion in Michael's eyes. She understood that prejudices were so deeply ingrained that even a good person like him found it hard to believe in others' kindness, especially from someone of her status. This further urged her to do more to prove her change. Victoria remained firm. She personally funded Michael's burn treatment and visited him at his small apartment. She listened to his story of self-study and his arduous life, expressing deep empathy. "I used to think success meant having high degrees, having status. But you taught me a valuable lesson about courage, kindness, and unwavering willpower." When she said this, Victoria felt a genuine respect for Michael. The values he possessed were far nobler than any title or status. She also sincerely shared about her claustrophobia and the panic she experienced in the elevator, helping Michael understand her transformation more deeply. Victoria invited Emma, Michael's daughter, to visit the Prism Tech office, thereby gaining a deeper understanding of Michael's life and family values. Seeing Emma, Victoria's heart seemed to soften. Michael's resilience perhaps stemmed from his boundless love for his daughter. Victoria also initiated diversity and inclusion programs at Prism Tech, establishing an educational support fund for disadvantaged children, and Emma was one of the first beneficiaries, receiving funding for modern physical therapy and assistive devices, bringing new hope for the little girl's future. This was not just a formality, but a real change in Victoria's perception, a commitment to building a fairer and more humane work environment. The assistant head of building services office was larger, more comfortable, but also colder. Michael was no longer at ease in his old uniform or with his familiar tools. Now he had to wear a suit, get used to long meetings, complex spreadsheets, and especially the scrutinizing glances, whispers, and challenging questions from former colleagues and Richard Sterling, who wanted to prove he wasn't worthy of the position. To meet the demands of his new role and overcome prejudice, Michael spent many long nights researching management, finance, complex systems, building management software, and safety protocols. He came home later, often missing dinners with Emma, and carried the anxiety of his new responsibilities. There were evenings when he came home and his little girl was already asleep, and he could only watch her through the room's doorway, a lingering sadness in his heart. The longing for his daughter, the emptiness of not being able to read her a bedtime story or help her assemble toys, sometimes felt like an invisible burden on his heart. He knew this was the price he had to pay for his daughter to have a better future, for him to fulfill his promise. This sacrifice, though heartbreaking and full of selflessness, was an inevitable part of the path he chose for Emma's future. The true climax arrived 1 week before Prism Tech's most crucial new product launch, a groundbreaking software promising to revolutionize how people with disabilities interact with technology. All eyes in the tech world were on Prism Tech. At this critical moment, the building's central air conditioning system suddenly suffered a severe malfunction. The entire building became stifling and hot, directly affecting sensitive electronic equipment, risking serious damage and delaying the entire product launch. The company's senior mechanical engineers had tried to fix it, but couldn't find the cause. Tension enveloped the entire company. Mr. Richard Sterling immediately seized this opportunity to undermine Michael. In the emergency meeting, he stood up, his face full of triumph and glee, loudly blaming Michael. "I told you so. How can someone without proper formal knowledge manage such a complex system? He must have made a mistake during inspection. This is the consequence of a lack of experience in enterprise-level system management." He even suggested Victoria fire Michael immediately and call in outside experts at a cost of billions of dollars, aiming to reclaim his position and discredit Michael once and for all. Michael stood under immense, unprecedented pressure. He knew he was innocent, but Richard's words, along with the extreme anxiety and suspicious glances from other departments, made the situation incredibly tense. His breathing was steady. His eyes calmly assessed the problem, his sharp gaze scanning the AC system diagram on the large screens projected in the meeting room. He didn't argue or justify himself. Instead, he simply bent down to inspect, his focus absolute. He requested all recent maintenance logs and detailed blueprints of the duct system, leaving nothing out. Victoria witnessed the entire scene. Her gaze remained fixed on Michael like an affirmation of unwavering trust, a promise that could not be broken. She stood up, her voice ringing out decisively, powerfully, cutting off the accusations. "Mr. Richard, give Michael a chance. I trust him. He has proven his competence and I will not let anyone doubt that." Victoria's words were like a ray of light dispelling the darkness of doubt, empowering him and easing the tension in the air. With Victoria's unwavering support, Michael plunged into work non-stop for 24 consecutive hours, barely sleeping a minute. He applied all his knowledge, practical experience, and innovative thinking. He delved into analyzing duct maps, tracing the source of the system error. Sweat dripping, strong coffee his only companion. Despite extreme fatigue and the lingering skeptical glances from some who still secretly watched him, he persevered bit by bit. Whenever the anxiety and exhaustion threatened to overwhelm him, the image of Emma struggling to take small steps or her innocent questions about the world of technology would flash through his mind. For Emma, he silently told himself, "I have to do this." It was his love and responsibility for his daughter that fueled him, helping him overcome his own limits, an astonishing resilience. He discovered the root cause was not in the central control system as everyone had thought, but a stuck pressure valve in a hidden location that other engineers couldn't detect due to an oversight during Richard's initial installation many years ago. Michael's detective skills based on practical experience with pipes and old mechanical systems helped him pinpoint the error location that other engineers relying only on modern control panels couldn't. He not only fixed the issue but also identified other potential weaknesses in the old facility infrastructure that no one had previously noticed, demonstrating his superior vision and capability. This victory struck a powerful blow against all prejudices. In the incident summary meeting, Victoria did not hesitate to publicly declare that Michael was not only the hero who saved the company from disaster, but also Prism Tech's genius and an invaluable asset to the company. With clear proof of his competence, Michael was officially appointed head of building services, overcoming any remaining opposition. Richard Sterling was forced to bow his head in apology and publicly apologize to Michael before the entire board and staff, his face pale with shame and defeat. Victoria looked at Richard, no longer feeling triumphant, but only a slight sadness. Prejudices had caused a talented man like him to lose his sense of fairness and compassion. He then voluntarily requested a transfer to another position within the parent company, no longer hindering Michael's development. Michael, from a low-regarded technician, became a role model of competence and steadfastness, proving that a person's worth lies not in degrees or prejudice, but in what they achieve. His success was not just about technical skill, but a triumph of kindness, perseverance and self-belief, bringing immense satisfaction. After Michael proved himself, he distinctly felt a change in Prism Tech's atmosphere. Invisible barriers of background and ethnicity were gradually dismantled, and diversity and inclusion programs were deeply integrated into the company culture. Victoria had worked hard to change everyone's perceptions, and she saw the first positive signs. He knew Victoria had personally overseen every process to ensure fairness and eliminate prejudice. She didn't just talk, she acted, demonstrating a true commitment. Victoria also noticed Michael actively participating in racial equality awareness activities, organizing internal workshops with diversity experts. Michael Bennett, now head of building services, became an excellent leader. He not only managed systems efficiently, but also inspired his team by sharing his practical experience and flexible problem-solving skills. Michael became a respected mentor, a living testament that talent and dedication are always recognized, bringing hope to many others. Emma's life also changed positively. With support from Prism Tech's Education Fund, Emma gained access to high-quality programming and technology courses that she had never dreamed of before. Michael also found a specialized physical therapy center with the most advanced methods, helping Emma's progress far exceed all expectations. He often saw Victoria taking Emma to the tech library, encouraging the little girl's passion. Emma not only learned but also found joy in the world of technology, starting to create simple apps and games herself, something that deeply moved Michael. However, Michael still felt a significant trade-off. His new position demanded more work, longer meetings, unexpected business trips, and he had less time for Emma. There were evenings when he came home and his little girl was already asleep, and he could only watch her through the room's doorway, a lingering sadness in his heart. The longing for his daughter, the emptiness of not being able to read her a bedtime story or help her assemble toys, sometimes felt like an invisible burden on his heart. He knew this was the price he had to pay for his daughter to have a better future, for him to fulfill his promise. One late afternoon weekend at a park near the Prism Tech office, Michael, Victoria, and Emma attended a company picnic. Emma happily ran and played with other children. Though still a bit unsteady, her steps were much more confident. Michael looked at his daughter, his heart filled with pride and happiness, a profound sense of fulfillment swelling within him. He looked at Victoria, who was smiling warmly. In that moment he knew that the true values of life lay not in superficial things or fame, but in kindness, human connection, and an unbreakable spirit. Victoria looked at Michael, her eyes filled with gratitude, respect, and something indescribable. They came from two different worlds, but an unexpected event had drawn them closer, breaking all barriers. The afternoon sun filtered through the tree canopy, casting shimmering light on Emma's radiant face and Michael's contented smile. He knew that this journey would continue, and it was a worthwhile one. His journey was a testament to unconditional kindness, empathy across social strata, A journey of healing and inner transformation combined with community spirit and hope, all interwoven to create a bright picture. And Victoria knew her journey had also changed. A journey towards understanding and compassion. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.